Hello, family. Enjoy this great and beautiful moment with Afri Stories. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and comment. It means the world to us. Also, share this video with your friends and loved ones, and don't miss future videos from us. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. Naomi's baby shower was set in a grand hall adorned with soft pink and gold decorations. The space sparkled under twinkling fairy lights, and the gentle murmur of conversation blended with the soothing strains of a love song. Friends and family filled the room, their laughter echoing against the high ceilings. At the center of it all, Naomi, 7 months pregnant, moved gracefully in a flowing cream dress. Yet behind her warm smile lay a tremor of uncertainty. As Naomi glanced around at the cheerful faces, her eyes kept returning to her husband, Malik. He was seated at a table near the entrance, yet he seemed detached, his attention fixed on his phone. Every time Naomi tried to catch his eye, he remained engrossed in the screen, offering only polite smiles to the other guests. With every passing minute, Naomi's heart sank a little further, as if it were whispering a secret too painful to share aloud. Leah, Naomi's best friend and the day's devoted organizer, moved among the guests with an air of practiced cheerfulness. "Naomi, you look absolutely radiant today," Leah said, gently squeezing her friend's hand as she passed by. "I want you to enjoy every moment." Naomi forced a smile in response, but internally she wrestled with an unsettling doubt. "Thank you, Leah," she murmured, her voice soft. "I just can't shake this feeling that something isn't right, that I'm somehow not the center of the celebration anymore." Across the room, small groups of guests conversed in hushed tones. One guest confided to another, "I've noticed Malik's been acting so odd lately. He barely looks at Naomi." The remark sent a ripple of unease through Naomi, who found herself questioning every detail. From the way Malik's eyes darted away from her to the barely concealed glances he exchanged with someone off in the distance. Even the delicate clink of champagne glasses and the gentle hum of the background music seemed at odds with the heavy secret lurking beneath the surface. As the party progressed, Malik's behavior grew even more enigmatic. While everyone else laughed and chatted, he sat with his phone in hand, occasionally chuckling at something unseen. He said everything's fine. A guest named Jamal had whispered to another, though his tone hinted at uncertainty. Malik's inability to share in the joy of the occasion made Naomi wonder if she was merely a prop in someone else's performance. When Leah took the stage to propose a toast, the room fell silent with anticipation. "To Naomi and Malik, may your lives be as bright as the decorations and as warm as the love that fills this room today," she declared with heartfelt enthusiasm. Polite cheers followed, but Naomi's smile remained strained. As she raised her glass, her mind raced with questions that no celebratory clink could answer. "Why can't Malik look at me like he used to?" she wondered. "Is it just the stress, or is something darker unfolding behind his smiles?" Finding a brief moment of solitude near a grand floral arrangement, Naomi leaned against a pillar and confided in her closest friend, Regina. "I feel like I'm watching a play in which I no longer have a leading role," Naomi whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Regina's voice was calm but resolute. "Sometimes the person we love hides secrets behind a veneer of normality. Trust your feelings, Naomi. If something is off, it will show itself in time." Meanwhile, Malik's demeanor remained inscrutable. At one point, he exchanged a few words with Jamal in a quiet corner. "Everything's under control," Malik assured, his voice low and measured. "Don't worry about a thing." Jamal hesitated, replying, "I hope you're right, Malik, but sometimes even the best-laid plans unravel." Their words, though barely audible, resonated like an omen for Naomi, who listened from afar with growing trepidation. As the afternoon wore on, the celebration's facade of happiness began to crack. The interplay of laughter and quiet confessions, the clinking of glasses, and the soft music created a surreal tapestry that masked a deeper, painful truth. Naomi's inner turmoil was almost tangible, a silent counterpoint to the merriment around her. Each time Malik's gaze shifted back to his phone, a fresh wave of despair crashed over her, leaving her feeling increasingly isolated among the crowd. In that moment, Naomi resolved to hold on, if not to the promises of the day, Then to her own inner strength. "I deserve to be seen, to be loved," she whispered to herself, even as the subtle evidence of betrayal loomed in the background. The party was supposed to be a celebration of life and love. Yet beneath the cheerful surface lay an undercurrent of secrets that would soon threaten to overwhelm her. By the time the cake was brought out, a magnificent confection decorated with delicate swirls of vanilla frosting and bright strawberry accents, Naomi's doubts had taken root. Every detail, every laugh, every forced smile hinted at something amiss. And though she tried to dismiss the growing anxiety, it clung to her like a shadow. In that dazzling hall, filled with secrets and silent warnings, Naomi's heart beat with a fear that her world was about to change forever. Even as the guests continued to celebrate, the tension in Naomi's mind grew palpable. Every whispered remark, every sidelong glance, and every reluctant smile now contributed to a tapestry of uncertainty. The party was a beautiful illusion, a celebration built on a fragile foundation of secrets, and Naomi, standing at its very center, began to realize that sometimes appearances could be deceiving. The celebration's gentle hum was abruptly shattered by the dramatic swing of the double doors. Every conversation halted as all eyes turned toward the entrance. In strode Zara, a woman whose presence radiated audacity and mystery. Clad in a dazzling blood-red gown that clung to every curve with unapologetic boldness, she exuded a magnetism that commanded attention. The room, once filled with soft laughter and gentle clinks of champagne glasses, now vibrated with charged tension that no one could ignore. Naomi, standing near the refreshment table, felt her heart seize at the sight of Zara. The room's pastel decor, once a comforting backdrop to the joyous celebration, now seemed to pale in comparison to the vivid statement Zara made simply by entering. As Zara moved with deliberate grace through the crowd, whispers broke out like wildfire. "Who is she?" murmured one guest, while another whispered, "I don't recall her name on the list." The uncertainty in their tones mirrored the unease that now gripped the entire hall. With each purposeful step, Zara drew closer to Malik, who had until moments ago remained distracted by his phone. When he finally looked up, his eyes briefly met Zara's, and in that split second an unspoken understanding passed between them. Zara leaned in close, her voice low and laced with a hint of derision, as she whispered something only Malik could hear. Though no one caught her exact words, Malik's slight, conspiratorial smirk revealed that he was not entirely taken by surprise. The silent exchange between them set off a ripple of discontent that spread rapidly through the room. Naomi's pulse pounded in her ears as she struggled to comprehend the unfolding scene. She took an involuntary step back, her hand clutching at the edge of the table as she tried to steady herself. "Malik, what is going on?" she managed to whisper to Leah, her closest friend, who had rushed to her side. Leah's eyes darted from Naomi to Malik and then to Zara, a mixture of concern and indignation in her gaze. "I don't know, Naomi," Leah replied softly, "but I can see it in his eyes. Something isn't right." As Zara began to address the assembly, her voice cut through the murmur of anxious voices. "I have come not as a shadow lurking in the background, but as a light that exposes what you have all chosen to ignore," she declared, her tone both taunting and sincere. Her words sent shivers down the spines of those present. The bold declaration was met with an uneasy silence, punctuated only by the occasional gasp from a guest who suddenly felt as though the party's cheerful facade was crumbling. A murmur of disapproval and shock rippled through the crowd. One guest, emboldened by the intensity of the moment, called out, "Malik, is this your idea of a joke?" His voice trembled with a mix of anger and disbelief. Malik's response was a noncommittal shrug and a slight smile, a gesture that only deepened the mystery. "Some truths are better left unspoken," he replied coolly, as though the very notion of betrayal was a trivial matter. His words, delivered without conviction, only served to intensify the growing storm of accusations. Zara's eyes, dark and resolute, swept over the room before she fixed them on Naomi. In a low, almost intimate tone that carried a blend of pity and scorn, she said, "Naomi, you deserve more than a life built on half-truths and pretense." The statement, aimed directly at Naomi's wounded heart, cut deeper than any insult. Naomi's lips trembled as she struggled to speak, her voice barely a whisper. How can you say that?" she managed, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. It was as if the very air around them had thickened, laden with the weight of a revelation that could not be undone. Leah, ever the protector, stepped forward, her voice rising with controlled fury. "Enough, Zara. This isn't a stage for your theatrics. You have no right to disrupt what is meant to be a joyful celebration," she shouted, her tone firm yet tinged with sorrow. Zara's laughter, soft yet mocking, rippled to the hall as she retorted, "I have every right, Leah. I am the mirror that reflects the truth you all have been too afraid to see." Her words, delivered with unsettling calm, left a trail of disquiet in their wake. The guests shifted uncomfortably, torn between a desire to maintain the veneer of festivity and the undeniable pull of the truth that Zara's presence had forced upon them. Some exchanged worried glances, while others discreetly recorded the exchange on their phones, as if capturing evidence of an unfolding scandal. The ambience, once filled with light-hearted banter, was now transformed into a crucible of exposed secrets and raw emotions. In the midst of the rising storm, Malik remained an enigma, his silence as telling as any outburst. His eyes flickered between Zara and Naomi, betraying a conflict that no one dared articulate aloud. The distance between his once comforting presence and the current charged atmosphere was palpable. As Zara's words continued to echo in the hall, Naomi felt as though she were caught in the crossfire of a battle she had never enlisted in, a battle between truth and deceit, loyalty and betrayal. The confrontation left the guests with a lingering question. Was a woman they had all trusted merely a pawn in a larger game of deception? With every word, Zara dismantled the carefully constructed narrative of the day, revealing a complexity that none had anticipated. In that moment, the celebration was irrevocably transformed into a stage for raw, unfiltered truth, a truth that was both painful and liberating, shattering illusions and exposing hearts to the unyielding light of reality. The room's atmosphere had already grown tense, but nothing could have prepared the guests for the chaos that was about to erupt. The previously festive baby shower had now transformed into a battleground of emotions and shattered illusions. As Zara continued to provoke with her sharp remarks and disarming smirk, a series of unforeseen events unfolded, culminating in a moment that would etch itself into memory of everyone present. Naomi, still reeling from Zara's stinging words and Malik's distant indifference, had been trying desperately to hold herself together. Her gaze was fixed on a magnificent cake that stood as a centerpiece on a long table, its creamy vanilla frosting adorned with delicate swirls and bright, inviting strawberry accents. The cake, painstakingly chosen by Leah, symbolized the sweetness of celebration and hope. But now, as if reflecting the crumbling facade of her life, it became an instrument of humiliation. Before anyone could react, Zara, with a defiant glint in her eye, seized a large slice of cake. In one swift, shocking motion, she hurled it directly at Naomi's midsection. Splat! The thick, creamy slice collided with Naomi's belly, the vibrant pink of the strawberry filling contrasting starkly with the pale cream of her dress. The sound of the impact echoed to the hall, silencing every conversation and reducing the room to a stunned, surreal stillness. Gasps filled the air. Some guests burst into nervous laughter, while others instinctively reached for their phones to capture the shocking spectacle. Malik's reaction was frozen in ambiguity. He neither moved to protect Naomi nor expressed outrage. His face remained unreadable as he stared at the unfolding scene. Leah, however, reacted instantly. With a mix of fury and determination, she charged forward, her voice ringing out above the stunned silence. "Zara, that's enough. You have no right to do this," she shouted, pushing her way through the throng of onlookers. Zara, unruffled by Leah's sudden intervention, merely rolled her eyes and stepped back, her posture exuding a dangerous calm. "I'm only exposing the truth, Leah," she said, her tone equally calm and cutting. "Naomi, you deserve a celebration that isn't a sham. And if a little cake reveals the bitter truth, then so be it." Her words, laced with cold defiance, resonated in the charged silence. Naomi stood in stunned silence, her body trembling not only from the cold splatter cake, but also from the emotional blow. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked down at her ruined dress, once pristine, and now a canvas of humiliation and sorrow. The room was now a mixture of shock and uncontrolled murmurs. Some guests whispered, "This is outrageous," while others muttered, I can't believe this is happening. Amid the turmoil, Malik finally broke his silence. Zara, enough, he demanded, his voice low yet carrying a note of authority that commanded attention. But his words, instead of defending Naomi, seemed to further entangle the web of deceit. You're not the one hurt here, he added, a remark that only deepened Naomi's despair. His attempt to justify the disruption by deflecting blame left a bitter taste in the mouths of those who heard it, and it further isolated Naomi from the support she desperately needed. Leah, undeterred by Malik's feeble attempt to reclaim control, pressed on. You can't hide behind him, Zara, she shot back, her eyes flashing with indignation. We're here to celebrate life and love, not to witness the unraveling of a lie. Her words, though passionate, could not undo the damage already inflicted. The confrontation had escalated beyond mere words. It was now a spectacle, a live drama that everyone in the room was unwillingly a part of. As the minutes ticked by, the initial shock began to give way to a maelstrom of emotions. Some guests attempted to console Naomi, approaching her with gentle, reassuring words. It's just a cake, dear, one older aunt murmured, though even her tone betrayed uncertainty. Others, however, looked on with eyes that held both sympathy and the curiosity of those witnessing an unexpected theater of scandal. The sight of the cake remnants on Naomi's dress served as a stark reminder of the evening's cruelty. Naomi's internal monologue was a tempest of conflicting thoughts. Each splatter of cake on her skin seemed to symbolize a betrayal that had been building over months. Why didn't Malik ever stand up for me? She thought bitterly, her mind racing through memories of whispered doubts and half-truths. The humiliation of the moment was compounded by the realization that the very people who had come to celebrate her were now unwilling participants in a public debacle. In a desperate attempt to salvage what was left of the day, Naomi clutched her ruined dress and slowly made her way toward the exit. I can't stay here, she murmured, her voice barely audible above the clamor of voices that filled the room. But as she turned, her eyes met those of a young cousin who simply nodded, as if silently offering comfort. That small gesture, though seemingly insignificant, bolstered Naomi's resolve to reclaim her dignity. In the ensuing chaos, time seemed to stretch. The cake, once a symbol of hope and celebration, had transformed into a weapon of humiliation and revelation. The guests, now divided in their reactions, stood witness to a moment that would forever alter the course of Naomi's life. Conversations resumed, but the tone had irrevocably shifted. No one could ignore the gravity of the scene. Even Malik's silence spoke volumes about the shifting loyalties and the stark reality that lay beneath the surface of the day's festivities. Amid the chaos, time seemed to slow. The cake, once a symbol of hope, had become a weapon of humiliation. Guests, divided in their reactions, witnessed a moment that altered Naomi's life forever. Even Malik's silence spoke volumes about shifting loyalties and unveiled truths, leaving no doubt in anyone's fragile mind. The celebration had descended into chaos, and what had once been a festive gathering was now a scene of heartbreak and shock. Naomi, her body trembling from both humiliation and the searing pain of betrayal, had finally mustered the strength to turn away from the party. With cake still dripping from her ruined dress, she moved slowly toward the exit. Every step felt weighted with despair, as though the crushing burden of her shattered dreams pressed down upon her. The room, once filled with laughter and light chatter, now lay in a heavy, disbelieving silence. Every guest froze in the wake of what had just transpired. As Naomi reached the doorway, her vision blurred and her legs buckled beneath her. A resounding thump echoed through the hall as she collapsed onto the polished floor. Gasps erupted, and in an instant, the atmosphere transformed into one of stunned disbelief. The elegant decorations and sparkling balloons seemed grotesquely out of place in the wake of such a dramatic fall. In that suspended moment, time itself appeared to halt, leaving every heart in the room pounding in a rhythm of collective shock and sorrow. Leah was the first to shatter the silence. Rushing to Naomi's side, she knelt beside her friend, her voice raw with panic and tenderness. "Naomi, please, hold on," she cried, grasping Naomi's hand as if she could anchor her to life itself. Her eyes brimmed with tears as she pleaded for a friend to fight against the darkness that threatened to engulf her. The murmurs of the onlookers melded into an indistinct background noise as all attention fixed on the fragile figure on the floor. Malik, who had hovered at the edge of the unfolding disaster, now appeared rooted to the spot. His face, previously a mask of nonchalance and distant indifference, was now a gallery of conflicted emotions, regret, shame, and a dawning horror at the consequences of his choices. For a long, agonizing moment, he remained silent, the weight of his betrayal pressing upon him as heavily as it did upon Naomi. His inaction was a bitter testament to the unraveling of the life they once shared. Amid the shock, a guest's voice rang out, breaking the oppressive stillness. "Call an ambulance!" Within moments, the sound of hurried footsteps and urgent voices filled the room as paramedics burst into the hall. Their professional composure clashed with the raw emotion of the scene as they swiftly assessed Naomi's condition. Calm yet determined, they worked with precision that seemed almost mechanical, all while the gathered crowd watched in pained silence. As they carefully lifted Naomi onto a stretcher, a heavy murmur of collective fear and regret passed among the guests. The stark reality of the situation sank in. What had begun as a celebration of new life was now a desperate struggle for survival. Leah's voice, steady despite the tumult raging inside her, whispered, "Stay with me, Naomi. Please fight through this." Her words, imbued with a fierce loyalty and deep love, seemed to momentarily push back against the overwhelming tide of despair. Outside the hall, the cool night air stood in jarring contrast to the heated emotions inside. The paramedics, their faces set in a mask of calm urgency, transported Naomi to a waiting ambulance under a sky that had suddenly turned somber. Every flash of a camera and every whispered speculation among the guests underscored the gravity of the moment. In that instant, the vibrant celebration had dissolved into a tableau of regret, guilt, and the painful realization that nothing would ever be the same again. Inside the ambulance, the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor served as a stark reminder of the fragile boundary between life and death. Naomi's labored breaths mingled with the quiet commands of the medical team, each sound echoing with the possibility of both loss and hope. The sterile brightness of the ambulance's interior contrasted sharply with the dim, echoing corridors of the celebration hall, symbolizing a harsh new reality that was beginning to take shape. Back at the venue, the remaining guests slowly dispersed, their conversations reduced to hushed tones and anguished murmurs. Every whispered word carried the weight of what had been witnessed, each person grappling with the implications of betrayal and heartbreak. The once joyful decorations now mocked the fleeting nature of happiness, their colors seeming to fade into the background of a night marked by tragedy. In the hospital's waiting area, time assumed a sluggish pace. Family members and friends gathered in a tight, anxious circle, their eyes fixed on the door through which Naomi had been taken. The sterile environment offered little solace as each minute passed, heavy with unspoken prayers and a desperate hope that Naomi would pull through. In that stark room, the reality of human frailty was undeniable, each heartbeat a battle cry against the encroaching darkness. For Naomi, every second was a fierce struggle, a battle against both physical pain and the overwhelming weight of emotional betrayal. The world, once vibrant and full of promise, had shrunk to the cold, clinical confines of a hospital room, where every beep of a monitor and every whispered word from a nurse was a reminder of what was at stake. Her battered body and wounded spirit were locked in a silent duel, each moment a test of resilience against forces that sought to break her completely. As doctors and nurses worked with determined urgency, a glimmer of hope began to seep through the despair. In the midst of chaos, the unwavering support of those who loved her emerged as a beacon, a quiet promise that even in the darkest hour, the light of compassion and care could guide her back from the brink. And so, as the night deepened and the world outside carried on unaware of the tragedy within, Naomi's fight for survival continued, a testament to the indomitable strength of the human spirit, even when the world itself seemed to have stopped. Every face in that hospital waiting room bore the silent, desperate wish that this would not be the end, that the story of betrayal and heartbreak might yet give way to a new chapter of healing and renewal. And in that small, fragile hope lay the promise of a future where, despite all that had been lost, life could begin again. Inside the quiet, sterile hospital room, the relentless beeping of monitors punctuated the stillness that had settled over the space. Naomi lay on a crisp white bed, her face etched with pain and determination, as she clutched the thin hospital blanket close to her. The soft hum of machinery and the occasional shuffle of a nurse's footsteps were the only sounds that broke the silence, reminding everyone present that life and hope endured even in moments of despair. Hours had passed since the turmoil of the party, and Naomi now found herself caught between the physical agony of labor and the raw emotional pain of betrayal. Each contraction was a reminder of both the present suffering and the harsh memories of humiliation and deceit. With every surge of pain, she whispered softly to herself, "Please, help me find the strength to carry on." Her voice, though barely audible, resonated with a fierce determination that belied the vulnerability etched in every line of her face. In the corridor outside, Leah paced with restless energy, her mind racing with the implications of the shocking discovery she had made earlier. Earlier that day, amid the chaos of the party, she had found Malik's phone abandoned and unlocked it. What she discovered within those digital pages was a damning collection of messages, videos, and secret bookings that painted a clear picture of betrayal. Malik had not only been unfaithful with Zara for months, but he had also used Naomi's resources to fuel his deception. The evidence was irrefutable, and as Leah's eyes scanned each incriminating detail, her heart pounded with a mixture of anger, sorrow, and an unyielding resolve to reveal the truth. As the reality of Malik's betrayal settled in, Leah felt compelled to act. With trembling hands and a fierce determination burning inside her, she began to compile every piece of evidence. Her fingers tapped rapidly on her phone as she documented the damning messages and saved the incriminating videos. No one will remain in the dark about this, she vowed quietly. Every tap, every scroll, was a step toward justice for Naomi. Leah knew that exposing the truth might shatter relationships and cause irreparable pain, but she also understood that silence would be far more destructive in the long run. Inside the hospital room, the atmosphere shifted as a new sound emerged, a soft, unmistakable cry that broke through the tension like a beacon of hope. The doctor, with gentle urgency, announced, "It's time," and prepared Naomi for what was to come. In that defining moment, amid the pain and fear, a new life entered the world. With one final push, and with the help of skilled hands, a healthy baby girl was born. The cry of the newborn was clear and strong, reverberating the room and momentarily washing away the despair that had so long lingered. As Naomi cradled her newborn daughter, her eyes glistened with a mixture of exhaustion and newfound hope. The tiny infant, wrapped in a soft blanket, represented a future that could rise from the ruins of betrayal. "Welcome, my little miracle," Naomi whispered, her voice trembling with relief and quiet joy. Each gentle coo and tiny movement seemed to infuse the room with a promise that life, no matter how fraught with hardship, could still be beautiful. Nurses offered soft smiles, and the doctor's approving nod spoke volumes about the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. Outside the hospital, Leah was not idle. Determined to ensure that justice was served, she began posting the evidence of Malik's deception on every social media platform she could access. Her posts were direct and unyielding, tagging family members, friends, and even acquaintances who had been present at the ill-fated celebration. No more secrets, no more lies, she declared boldly in her messages. The online community responded with overwhelming support. Comments flooded in, condemning Malik's actions and expressing solidarity with Naomi. In minutes, the evidence went viral, igniting a fierce conversation about trust, betrayal, and the strength required to overcome such profound heartbreak. As the day advanced, the hospital room became a sanctuary of revelations and rebirth. Naomi, holding her daughter close, began to piece together the fragments of her shattered identity. The pain of betrayal was raw, yet was slowly giving way to a dawning sense of empowerment. With every breath, she reaffirmed her worth, determined that she would not be defined by Malik's treachery. In quiet moments, she spoke softly to her child, promising a future where love, respect, and truth reigned supreme. "You are my strength, my hope," she murmured, her words both a balm and a vow to herself. In the quiet aftermath, as dusk settled outside the hospital windows, the truth that had been so long suppressed now shone with unyielding brilliance. Family members and friends, now fully aware of Malik's duplicity, gathered to offer their support to Naomi. Conversations filled with anger, regret, and eventual forgiveness echoed softly in the hallways. Some called for justice, while others whispered words of encouragement to a woman who had suffered immensely yet continued to stand tall. Through it all, Naomi's resolve grew stronger, and the love for her newborn daughter became the cornerstone of her healing journey. At that moment, as the final echoes of betrayal faded, Naomi vowed to rebuild her life with unwavering strength, embracing a hopeful future. Naomi's triumphant return had been nothing short of miraculous. 2 weeks after the catastrophic baby shower and the subsequent heartbreak that shattered her world, she was now the embodiment of strength and renewal. At her 30th birthday celebration, a dazzling event held in a refurbished art gallery, every detail was a deliberate statement of empowerment. The room buzzed with quiet determination and hopeful energy as family and friends gathered to honor the woman who had transformed her pain into power. Soft ambient lighting, intricate floor arrangements, and vibrant banners declaring "Rise Above" created an atmosphere of rebirth and possibility. This was not just a party. It was a public declaration that Naomi would no longer be defined by betrayal, but by the courage to reclaim her life. As the celebration unfolded, whispers of admiration and support filled the room. Guests recalled the dark days of scandal and how they once doubted Naomi's ability to overcome the crushing weight of betrayal. Yet, here she stood, unbowed and resolute. Her smile radiated an inner light that outshone the pain of the past. Every word of encouragement, every warm embrace from old friends and newfound allies reaffirmed her belief in a future shaped by hope rather than sorrow. Conversations buzzed with tales of personal triumphs and shared resilience, turning the event into a tapestry of collective healing and empowerment. Midway through the evening, a moment arrived that would forever alter the narrative of the night. Just as the band began playing an uplifting melody, the doors opened once more, and 2 familiar figures stood silhouetted in the doorway. Zara and Malik had come unannounced, their presence sending a ripple of tension to the gathered crowd. The music faltered, and all conversation died away as every eye turned to the unwelcome intruders. With a calm yet piercing gaze, Naomi addressed them directly. "Your presence is a reminder of a chapter one have already closed," she said, her voice steady and filled with quiet authority. "Tonight, I celebrate the strength it took to rise above the past. You are not a part of my future." The tension in the room was palpable as Zara and Malik exchanged furtive glances, their expressions a mix of disbelief and resentment. A murmur ran through the crowd, some stunned by Naomi's boldness, others questioning how such audacity had been mustered. Yet, the energy of the night refused to succumb to darkness. Instead, it transformed into a celebration of liberation. A close friend of Naomi's, standing near the entrance, leaned over and whispered, "She's rewriting her story, one word at a time." The remark, filled with admiration and quiet joy, was echoed by many. It was a moment when the past, no matter how painful, was being left behind in favor of a future crafted with integrity and self-respect. As the night wore on, the celebration only grew more vibrant and defiant. Naomi took center stage, her eyes gleaming with the promise of renewal, and began to speak. "Tonight, we celebrate not only a birthday, but a rebirth," she proclaimed. "Every scar, every tear, has led me to this moment of undeniable strength. I stand before you, not as a victim, but as a survivor, and as a beacon of hope for anyone who has ever been betrayed or cast aside." Her words resonated deeply with every listener, stirring emotions that had long been suppressed by fear and self-doubt. The crowd erupted into applause, their claps echoing like thunder in the quiet spaces of the past. After the applause subsided, Naomi found a quiet moment to reflect with a close confidant. Sitting in a secluded corner of the venue, she held a glass of sparkling water and listened as her friend recalled the dark days of uncertainty. "I never imagined you could emerge from such heartbreak with so much grace," her friend said softly. Naomi smiled, a serene expression replacing the traces of pain. "Every moment of suffering was a lesson in disguise. I learned that true strength comes from acknowledging our vulnerabilities and using them to forge a path forward." Their conversation meandered through memories of despair and the surprising beauty of transformation, a reminder that even the deepest wounds could give rise to an extraordinary legacy of resilience. As midnight approached, the celebration entered its final act, a symbolic ritual of letting go and embracing new beginnings. Naomi led her guests to a circle formed in the center of the room, where a large, ornate box sat on a pedestal. One by one, each guest was invited to write down a painful memory, a moment of betrayal, or fear that had once held them captive. With trembling hands, they placed their slips of paper into the box, each note representing the weight of their past. Naomi then took the box and, with a solemn nod, dropped it from the pedestal, its contents scattering like confetti into the air. In that act, the room erupted in cheers, as the symbolic gesture washed away remnants of pain and replaced them with hope and possibility. The box became a vessel of collective liberation, a final farewell to the ghost that had haunted them all. By the end of the night, Naomi's journey from despair to empowerment was complete. The echoes of laughter and heartfelt support promise that every ending leads to a new beginning, forever inscribed in the annals of her remarkable life indeed. The end. Enjoyed the story? We invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing more beautiful stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your effort. See you again